Hello, my name is Elvis, and as always, I am your host. And welcome to another really short episode of Unsourced Wall. I have been really busy working on these unboxing vids. I'm currently embroiled in doing this themed unboxing month called Summer of Stargate. It's going to be really a lot of fun. Check that out. And this time, we're only going to be talking about two or so things. The first of which is that we finally have casting announcement for the Blue Beetle HBO Max movie, which is obviously going to be about Jaime Reyes. And they've gone with Zola Mariduena, who is best known for playing basically the main character who is not an adult in their 60s from the Cobra Kai show. And I think that was always everyone's first choice. Like when they said that they were going to be making a Jaime Reyes led Blue Beetle movie, that was like, it's got to be that guy. And yeah, it might be like a stock fan cast, but it was a good one, and it's really exciting to see that happen and come true. I think that the actor does a great job on Cobra Kai. He has a very lively, youthful, and kind of exuberant presence on screen, and I think that's perfect for what Jaime is and what hopefully the movie will be. My only real thought is that overall it's a little bit too soon. There's not enough foundation made to include stuff like Dan and Ted's legacy, Daniel Garrett and Ted Kord. But something that did come to mind is that we have John Cena, who is playing Peacemaker in both the Suicide Squad sequel and also his own miniseries on HBO Max. And I was thinking that it'd be really ballsy of WB to kind of merge the two, because as anyone who's read the original Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle ongoing, Peacemaker plays a pretty famous part of that. And I thought that'd be pretty funny to, have John Cena kind of intersect that character into the Blue Beetle movie, especially now that we can have all that old school Blue Beetle stuff without feeling forced about it. And you know what? Even if it's not similar to what the character is, I think that's been one of my biggest complaints about John Cena's take on the Peacemaker. It'd be really fun to see. So fingers crossed. Can't wait to see it happen, and hopefully it all turns out for the best. Now the second thing I want to talk about is that we have the first full trailer for Venom 2. We had a teaser trailer last time, and now we have a first full kind of story beat trailer, and it looks really great. Again, the first trailer, it shocked me by how well Andy Serkis was able to match the tone and sort of energy of the first movie with that trailer. It feels like a proper sequel. It doesn't seem like, okay, we switched up directors. No, Serkis is definitely doing his best to match up with Ruben Fleischer and keep that same kind of momentum going. And this trailer is no different. It shows a lot more, and it shows a lot that's really fun and really exciting looking. And I'm glad that, we are getting this better look at it. I think the best thing about it to me is that it really showcases Woody Harrelson's take on Cletus a lot more. I think that he's been looking a little bit too stock, a little bit too cliche. We've only really gotten the stinger credit scene to Venom and the first trailer, and he wasn't looking that great at it. But now we're getting a lot more of just the scenes he's in and the set pieces and just how he's sort of emoting through them. And I think he's really warming up on me. But I have to say that we do get a better, more substantial, more full look at Carnage here in motion, full frontal, for as much as that means for this muscly monster man. And I think he looks great. I think Carnage looks amazing. I think that the way they've done the henshin, the transformation from Cletus to Carnage is amazing, because there's always been that thing where Carnage is Cletus, that they've intertwined on a level that not even Venom and Eddie have, where he is basically Cletus's blood system. And so when we see Cletus transform, it's like Carnage is bursting through his skin, tearing the skin away to show forth. And I think that's really fantastic. And it also sort of hews to that design element of Carnage, where you get the idea that he is the skin, the musculature of a person, and it's pretty wonderful. I love it. There's a lot of great stuff. I think Tom Hardy looks great. I think Michelle Williams is still fun. I'm glad to see that she still has a good role in this, a hopefully substantial supporting role, because she was so entertaining in the first movie. And Dr. Dan is back, and I have to say, he's only in 1 2-second bit, so that doesn't fare well for his chances. Fingers crossed that he makes it out of this one alive, but he is on the expendable side, I'll tell you that. Hope to see it as soon as possible. And lastly, I want to talk about M. Night Shyamalan's Old, which I think I mentioned before was an adaptation of a Swiss Franco graphic novel and called Sandcastle, created by Pierre Oscar Levy and Frederick Peters. And I guess I could do a review of it. I mean, why not? It's technically within the realm of comicsdom. And I have to say, I really enjoyed it. It's basically If the Happening was also actually really good. And what I mean by that is that it has almost all the same failings as The Happening, like really weirdly atonally dissonant stuff, somewhat flat characterization, somewhat janky, awkward, utilitarian dialogue, very cold and dispassionate feeling. But it's also a lot better written, a lot better acted, and a lot more inventively filmed and shot. Like, there's so much about it that's actually like really engaging on both like a storytelling sense and in how they film this kind of sense. Like, what's the filmmaking behind this? What's the skill behind this? That I was enthralled on like every other level, other than just the standard M. Night Shyamalan just jankiness. Like, there's so many line readings here that are on the level of anything Marky Mark could say, but they're done better because the actors are much more talented than Marky Mark, you know. And it's a really enjoyable movie. I got so much out of it. There are parts that really do drag and are very slow and dull, but I think that's mainly just the first half. And this is where I'm going to talk a little bit about the comic. But I think that M. Night got a little bit too much flack about this movie because a lot of complaints are from like the first half of the movie. And I think there's a lot of people who didn't understand or didn't realize this was based on a comic. And having read the comic, and the comic has a lot going for it too. It's got a great premise. It's got a great visual sense. There's moments in there where the comic making and the drafting and the imagery used are like astounding and really sort of thought provoking. But it's also just a really dull story. Like, it's so bland in just general terms of plot and plot beats. Like, I guess I get it. It's an allegory for like growing old and for seeing your children grow up and for you getting older and seeing the finality and fragility of all that. But then you have like weird psychosexual stuff that only really makes sense if you take into account that this is a French comic and French comics are weird like that. Like, you see so much of this, it felt like a parody of French comics, you know? Especially since there's, you know, characters of all different ages involved, and it gets really weird and janky. And it's just not that like exciting. And I think that's mainly the biggest difference between this as a comic and this as a movie, because like comic can do that. You're there for the visual sense. You're there for like just the imagery and just soaking in the atmosphere of the comic. Meanwhile, you're making this into a Hollywood thriller, a suspense thriller. You need a little bit more you need a little more energy to it. And M. Night is very slavishly at times devoted to adapting the comic faithfully for the first time of the movie, and that really does slow things up. That really does like clog things up. It feels like nothing's progressing, and that's because he was really trying to hone in on like the imagery, on the character beats, and on the character dynamics of the comic, and those could have been improved, and I guess he didn't feel like it. But at the midway point, that's when I goes, okay, we got all that out of the way, now for my own spin on things. And that's where the movie really amps up for me, and that's where it really improves, and that's where it really gets a lot more exciting, a lot more thrilling, a lot more suspenseful, and a lot more, you know, just competent at times. Like, there's so many things there in terms of like just ideas that are new, character beats that are new, character twists and dynamic turns and shifts that are new to the movie, that I just vastly preferred it as like as a captivating experience than the comic was, and I think that they were all for the better in the realm of translating this to a film, especially some of those beats with the younger characters. Like, there are some things that I just don't feel the comic did well or rationalized or paid off well with the younger children characters, that made a lot of their payoffs and character arcs feel just kind of disgusting. And in this one, M. Night like almost boldly, bluntly just swerves around where that kind of thing happened. I just applauded. Like, that was hilarious that he so affrontedly decided not to go that route that the comic did. Like, just very bald-facedly. If you hadn't read the comic, you wouldn't appreciate it. But after having read the comic, I appreciated it a lot. I appreciated so much that it changed a lot. And I think that that's something that's going to be lost on people who didn't read the comic. They're not going to notice just how much effort and work that M. Night put into this. to make it distinct from the comic. I think he's getting a lot of flack for the stuff that was inherently at fault with the comic. Then he is going to get credit for the stuff that he improved. And overall, I think that the movie does have its own flaws that M. Night did bring along. I think that the ending is very hokey, slightly classically M. Night hokey, but then it goes a little bit too far where it feels like a parody of itself. It feels so extended. It feels like a Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King style ending where it just keeps on going and going. It felt very much like it should have ended like 2 scenes before it does, and it would still have the same effect. It still would have had the same sort of tone and energy and mood that M. Night was obviously going for, but it just keeps going on. It feels like it ends on a whimper. It feels like it ends on an awkward cut. And that's a shame for any kind of movie. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. I think there's a lot of striking stuff here, especially as a horror movie. It might not captivate people who are expecting like a straight out-and-out horror, but I think that it holds its cards close enough to the chest that when it actually does start getting a little more horrific, a lot more, like, I guess, traditionally scary and spooky, that it's, it makes it worthwhile. Like, I love the payoff, the climax for 2 particular characters where the set pieces are just amazingly, powerfully shocking and disturbing and just full-on Junji Ito body horror. I think it's well worth the price of admission just for that. Yeah, but I had a great time. It's not the best movie. I'd give it a 6 out of 10, but it's definitely on the lower ring of his personal filmography. Like, it's like the best of his weaker works. So let's put it at that. Overall, like I said, 6 out of 10, 1 thumb up, 1 thumb middle. Anyway, that's it for this week. I want to give a shout out to the cover artists for the show at DOTEMCE. Please check them out. They're amazing. Give them all the love they can get. And I want to say that next week we're going to be trying to get our review of the Suicide Squad 2. Can't wait to see how that shapes up. I'm really excited. And yeah, have a great one. See you again next time, and be safe out there.